Okay, let's unpack this. When you first dive into the symbolism of esoteric traditions, particularly something like Freemasonry,
Yeah.
what numbers pop up?
It's always 3 and 7.
Always 3 and 7. 3 is all about completion, progression. 7 is spiritual mastery, the different phase. I mean, they get all the glory, right? They have the grand narratives.
They absolutely do. They feel very active, very sequential.
But if you look a little bit deeper, and our sources really bear this out, there's a quieter number, a more powerful number that provides the absolute foundation for the others to even work. We're talking about the number 6. It's the essential structure. You could almost call it the silent architect of cosmic order.
What's so fascinating here is that the essence of 6 is all about synthesis. It's completeness through combination. I mean, mathematically, it's the sum of two interlocking triads, 3 plus 3. And that structure symbolizes the merging of opposites. It's the point where the spiritual and the material worlds are meant to, unite. And the key symbol for this, which we'll get into, is the hexagram.
So our mission today is pretty simple. We're looking for balance, harmony, and reconciliation. We want to trace how this very mathematical and geometric concept provides a blueprint, not just for the universe, but for your own personal journey. We're sort of moving past the famous 3 steps to see the underlying framework holding it all together. And to begin, we have to start with a really surprising mathematical fact. It kind of elevates 6 way beyond just a simple number. 6 is widely considered the first perfect number. And when we say perfect, we don't mean, philosophically flawless. We mean mathematically complete.
That's the key distinction, absolutely. A perfect number is one that's equal to the sum of its proper divisors. So for 6, the divisors are 1, 2, and 3.
And you add them up.
You add them up. 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. It's internally self-sufficient. It doesn't rely on anything outside itself to be complete.
That is wild. It's a closed loop of mathematical harmony.
And that internal harmony gave it immense symbolic weight, even in the ancient world. If you go back to, say, the Pythagoreans in ancient Greece, they associated 6 with marriage, balance, beauty.
Why marriage?
Because they viewed it as the synthesis of the masculine principle, which for them were the odd numbers, and the feminine principle, the even numbers. 2 times 3 is 6. It's the perfect union.
So we're talking about a math equation that the ancient Greeks thought was the secret to a successful marriage. That right there is a huge insight.
It is. And connecting that mathematical harmony to the core values of the craft of Freemasonry, well, harmony is everything. A lodge has to operate with this careful balance. Light and dark, strength and beauty, firmness and compassion. 6, through its very structure as a double triad, reflects that precise ideal of reconciling polarities. The earthly and the heavenly, the physical and the spiritual. It's a number of interdependence.
And that idea has immense personal relevance, especially for you, the individual on the path. I mean, the whole journey from entered apprentice to master mason is really about confronting and integrating opposing forces within yourself. It's not about choosing reason or emotion. It's about restoring inner harmony.
Exactly.
So the number 6 isn't just cosmic window dressing. It's a constant mathematical reminder that wholeness comes from integration, not elimination.
Which brings us right to its most powerful representation, the hexagram, the 6-pointed star.
Right, the 2 interlocking
A
triangles.
symbol that just visually screams duality and unity all at once. It's a striking image.
Okay, so let's break down that geometry for a second. We have the triangle pointing up and the triangle pointing down. What do those represent separately?
Separately, they are fundamental forces. The upward pointing triangle is the ascension of the spirit. It's our striving to move higher, our will.
Okay.
You could say it's the element of fire. The downward triangle, that signifies the descent of divine grace. Or, maybe more importantly, it's about grounding those spiritual ideals in the material world. That's the element of water, the receptive principle.
And when they interlace?
When they interlace, you get the hexagram, the perfect union, the perfect integration. And this is where it connects directly to that universal Hermetic axiom.
As above, so below.
As above, so below.
That's a term we hear a lot. For our listeners who might not be deep into Hermetic texts, how do we define that simply in this context?
Well, it means the universe is holographic.
Yeah.
The laws and patterns you find in the macrocosm, the big universe, are mirrored in the microcosm, in you, the individual human. The hexagram visually confirms that the divine and the human aren't separate things, they're fundamentally interrelated.
So your internal world reflects the external world and vice versa.
Precisely.
And the symbolic layers just keep stacking up from there. In esoteric thought, this hexagram often represents the alchemical union of, fire and water, masculine and feminine forces, the whole transformation thing.
It's often cited as the symbol of the Philosopher's Stone.
Right, that perfected, balanced state that transforms base metal or the initiate into gold, the master.
Exactly. And while you may not see it on every standard lodge tracing board, our sources detail its crucial use in specific Masonic side degrees and related traditions. Rosicrucians, the Golden Dawn, and especially in the Royal Arch. It is the sign of hidden wisdom.
That unity leads us right to the figure most famously associated with this symbol in history, King Solomon,
The legendary temple builder.
the archetype of wisdom and precision, an absolutely central figure in Masonic lore.
The hexagram, historically, was known as the Seal of Solomon. It was the great architect's signature of balance.
And the legends around the seal are incredible, weren't they? It was supposedly engraved on his ring, gave him these almost supernatural powers.
The power to control spirits, command the elements.
And to discern truth from falsehood.
And that's the key part for the initiate. The ability to discern truth from falsehood. This circles right back to the purpose of the lodge. Solomon's temple isn't just a physical building. It's a universal symbol for spiritual construction. It's the blueprint for building the inner temple of your soul.
So, if the seal grants the wisdom to discern truth, and the temple requires perfection, then the hexagram, as Solomon's emblem, reinforces that idea. It shows that spiritual mastery isn't just about faith. It requires balance, precision, alignment.
You need the tools of the physical world. That's the downward triangle, applied with the vision of the spiritual world, the upward triangle. We should briefly mention the Royal Arch degree, which really crystallizes this. The symbolism there, with the interlaced triangles, it conveys this sacred convergence, this divine revelation, symbolizing apotheosis.
Whoa, okay, let's stop right there. Apotheosis is a heavy word. Can we simplify that a bit?
Certainly. Apotheosis, in this context, it just means man's elevation to a divine or perfected state. It's the goal of the journey, to become the perfected man by deliberately balancing these opposites.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, let's shift focus. From geometry to cosmology. The number 6 isn't just about symbols on a page, it's about defining our place in the universe. 6 defines sacred space through the 6 cardinal directions.
North, south, east, west, above, and below.
And these aren't just arbitrary points on a compass.
Not at all. They define a symbolic orientation for the initiate. They represent different fields of labor, of spiritual energy.
So tell us what those directions signify.
Well, the east, of course, is a source of light, wisdom, the rising sun. The west is for reflection, judgment, the setting sun. South is activity, labor, vitality, the heat of the day.
And the north, always seen as the place of darkness.
Right, but that means it represents secrecy, introspection, and hidden potential. And then you have the vertical axis. Above is the celestial realm, divinity, your aspiration. And below is the material foundation, the earth, mortality, our reality.
I think the crucial point here is what happens to the person standing in the middle of all of this.
Exactly. When you, the initiate, stand in the center of these 6 directions, you become the 7th point. You become the axis mundi.
Another powerful term, the axis mundi.
Think of it as the world's axis, the cosmic center point. The initiate becomes that still center around which all 6 of these universal forces revolve. 6 here symbolizes containment, sacred order, bringing all these different forces into harmony around your spiritual center.
And this spatial idea is fundamental to how the lodge itself is structured. The lodge is a microcosm of the universe. Its form, its orientation, it all echoes the 6-fold cosmology.
It's a space where you can consciously engage with all 6 dimensions of reality.
Okay, let's loop back to that initial concept of the double triad. The 2 groups of 3. This isn't just abstract geometry. It describes these active and passive principles in action.
Think of it practically. If the upward triangle is your active will, your aspiration, and the downward is receptive grace, the union means you can't succeed through effort alone. Nor can you just passively accept things. You have to align your aspiration, the active part, with the divine flow, the passive part.
And this model, it mapped so well onto our inner psychological lives. You know, in psychology, we're always talking about balancing opposites.
We do. In Jungian psychology, for instance, you have the need to integrate the animus and the anima, the masculine and feminine principles inside the psyche, or integrating your conscious self with your unconscious shadow. 6 demands that balance.
It also mirrors the lodge's moral teachings, you know, balancing reason and emotion, or justice and mercy.
Absolutely. Too much reason, you become cold. Too much emotion, you're chaotic. True wisdom comes from mediating that dual power.
So the double triad even shows up in
Yeah.
the actual physical structure of the lodge itself,
Hmm.
which is a great practical example.
It does. When you combine the three principal officers, the master and the two wardens, with the three great lights,
Yeah.
the volume of the sacred law, the square, and the compass, they form a symbolic six.
Ah,
This group of six governs the moral and operational harmony of the lodge. The whole system is built on this concept of balanced, dual authority and instruments.
so the 6 points govern the space, and the 6 active components govern the work within that space. It's structure on top of structure. Okay, finally, let's look at the idea of completion.
Right.
This is tied so intrinsically to the number 6, drawing right from the biblical tradition of creation. 6 days of work, 7th day of rest. What does that pattern mean for a Mason's spiritual labor?
Well, six represents the absolute completion of active work,
Oh,
of purposeful striving. It's about the moral, intellectual, and spiritual labor you undertake in the image of the divine. It establishes a rhythm,
a necessary rhythm.
a necessary rhythm.
Nice.
6 units of effort, then a point of rest and reflection, the 7th. The effort has to be complete before the rest is earned.
So it's not just a pattern for God, it's a blueprint for human growth.
Yeah.
Do we see this structure anywhere else? In other esoteric systems?
Yes, very clearly, in the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's a diagram of energy flow. The system uses 10 fundamental principles, or 10 sephirot.
And for anyone unfamiliar, how do we describe the Sephirot?
They're essentially channels or spheres of divine energy. And within that system, the 6 lower sephirot, which are concepts like mercy, severity, beauty, victory, and so on, they form the energetic body of spiritual man.
Sounds incredibly complex.
It is, but structurally, it mirrors our concept perfectly. These 6 energies are then harmonized and brought into the world by the 7th, Malkuth, which is the kingdom, or the earthly realm. The point is the pattern is there, 6 components of work and energy, culminating in a 7th point of realization.
What we've learned today, I think, is that 6 isn't just a lesser sibling to the more famous numbers.
Right.
It's the imperative for reconciliation. It calls the initiate, and really, you, the listener, to unify all the fragmented parts of your being. Intellect and emotion, labor and rest, aspiration and grounding.
6 is the number of balance, of interpenetration, of sacred harmony. By contemplating the hexagram, you're really contemplating your own nature, being made of spirit and matter, striving for that perfected state where the earthly and the divine are not at war, but at profound creative peace. It's the number that makes the journey possible.
The number 6 shows us that true power lies not in choosing one side of a duality, spirit or matter, reason or emotion, but in integrating them into a cohesive, perfect whole. So here's a thought. How might the concept of the double triad, understanding things in terms of paired but complementary active and passive forces, change how you approach complex problems in your own life? That's your deep dive homework.